Hello everyone. If you are new to my channel, then consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do it, thanks. By the way, I also have a Luffy fan fiction channel. If you are interested, the link is in the description.
For A Roll of the Dice by Kurasabe. Little Naru didn't know where the weird floating box shape came from, and can honestly say she doesn't give a shit. Together with Anko and the Kachan voice in her head, the little blonde will become the strongest ninja and go on many serious and awe-inspiring adventures. At least, if that Wild Nations perk doesn't get to them first, to turn things crazy. Adios.
While Kushina isn't afraid to call herself a kick-ass mother with two of her little ones that will, probably, most likely, back it up, she does know that her relation with Naru can be called distant at best. Still, it doesn't make her any less scary and protective as she opens the door and sees Anko carrying an unconscious blonde on her back. Before you say anything, Guy did have a hand in this as well. Anko says frantically in sheer fright. What, like hell she's gonna bear the red-hot habanero's ire all by herself? Her words only serve to piss off said fucking scary woman even more, those long red tresses even splitting into 9 equal parts and swaying like the Kyuubi's tails while her face looks like vengeance incarnate. And as many before her, Anko picks this time to start praying to whatever deity willing to listen to save her from this evil. Get inside, put Naru in bed, and then you and I will have a little chat. Kushina says eerily calm. Letting out a squeak that sounds more or less affirmative, Anko walks into the house with only one thought in her mind: oh holy log, please save me. Not so awesome line break for the boned sadist sensei. Also, I have an awesome name for our ultimate attack that I'm gonna try and get in somehow. For some reason the forest is silent on this peaceful day, the animals making nary a sound. If one does wonder why they only have to follow the melodious laughter that can be heard throughout this part of the forest. If one is brave enough to do so, they would stumble upon a most peculiar sight. A young girl with hair white as snow and crimson eyes sitting at a table with a tanuki made of sand and a cat with 2 tails consisting of nothing but blue fire. Though both of these inhuman beings are quite strange, it is what they're doing that truly baffles the mind. They're having a tea party with the little girl dressed as a shrine maiden. What happened next, Shuni? Yasha asks, eager to hear the rest of the humorous tale her brother figure is telling. So yeah, after tripping Zura I was hoping he'd just fall into the barrel, but he fell with his face straight into a woman's chest. The broad just takes it all in stride and starts flirting with him, trying to get I am even redder as Son Goku's rear. The little guy keeps denying that he enjoyed it, until the husband starts meddling himself with it. Shukaku talks, 3 puppets of sand reenacting the entire scene. So the man starts glaring at Zura and asks a simple question. So you don't think my wife's bosom is all that EY? Zura, being the idiot he is, simply shakes his head, not realizing where his hands are. Of course that's when the poor sod can't keep it in anymore and starts shouting at, I am. Then why are ye still groping them, you lit shite? At the rather crudely delivered punchline, Yasha starts giggling again. Both Shukaku and Matabi smile as the girl enjoys herself, yet they are also annoyed with the Rikudo Sennin for keeping her hidden away from the rest of the world. Oh well, Shukaku already took it upon himself to try and break her out of that cage the old fart built around Yasha. The fact that Matabi is already on board is just a nice extra. Now he just needs to find a way to get those other 7 idiots on board. Line break for the psychopathic older Tanuki brother. I mean Enscape. White Emperor sword sounds pretty fucking badass, doesn't it? Getting up and stretching her limbs and upper body not unlike a cat, Naru opens her bloody red eyes to gaze upon the waning moon. That really seems like a boring place to be sealed in, the little girl can't help but think to herself. The moon is nothing more than a barren white rock in the sky after all. Oh, it wasn't that exciting, no, but at least I had Hamura and his clan up there to keep me company. It didn't hurt that I could keep an eye on the world from my seal as well. Kagaya says with mirth, making herself known to her surrogate child. Nodding while getting slowly out of bed. Oh god. Her everything is still stiff and hurts a bit. Naru can't help but let out a happy sigh as she can feel the cold floor underneath her feet. Taking rather small steps to her closet, the girl takes out a red tank top and a pair of dark cargo pants before heading to the bathroom. It doesn't matter how late, early it is. She smells like she needs a shower 5 hours ago. Meanwhile downstairs Minato just chuckles to himself as he can hear the water run through the plumbing. At least she's not singing in the shower right now. Kushina would rain hell upon her for making so much noise before 5 AM. His hand doesn't stop for the slightest of moments as he keeps doing his paperwork absent-mindedly. Sure, he could have just done it all in the morning, but if he finishes it all right now he should have about 2 days off. And one of those will be spent with his little girl that apparently tried to duke it out with Maida Guy. With a sigh Minato puts down his pen as he rubs his eyes, thoughts on his kid with the highest weirdness factor. While it did warm his heart that she came clean about Naru's life being essentially a video game, it didn't prepare him for the shock that was transmigration. The fact that his daughter is the reincarnation of the daughter of the Rikudo Sennin and may quite possibly retain skills from that lifetime is something that he hopes never becomes common knowledge. Who knows what Kumo or even worse, Yui would do if they found out. "You okay, Dad?" An amused voice asks from the stairs, the near silent footsteps helping him easily identify the person coming closer. "As fine as I could be, though I wouldn't say no to a day in bed like you had," he says teasingly while his daughter prepares tea with skills one could only match after having dedicated a lifetime to brewing the herbal concoction. Father and daughter can't help but say at the same time, their thoughts ending at the same place. Pouring a cup for both herself and her father, a serene silence hangs over them as both do their best to catch up with their messages and accompanied rewards, headaches. Glaring at the sleek screen appearing in front of Naru, Minato can't help but feel a tad jealous at how awesome it looks. "Ooh nice, one of my perks got an upgrade," the little blonde exclaims happily, once again distracting her father from the not-so-inviting mountain of paperwork. Glancing to where his daughter is sitting next to him, Minato's inner gamer can't help but hum appreciatively at the perk. Minor precognition. Trust your gut and it'll take care of you. You have the chance to predict when something bad happens or when powerful enemies are nearby due to your instincts. In battle you can slightly read and predict the enemy's attack before it happens. You gain a bonus of +5 perception, rank 2 of 5. Not a bad perk, and it seems that it can still be upgraded. Is it skill related? The Yondaime asks, the bane of his existence all but conveniently forgotten. Yeah, it's coupled to the precognition skill. It hit 205 somewhere during my spar with Guy and probably was upgraded then. Naru admits with some hesitation, pride obviously bruised at being batted around like a ragdoll. Still, being kicked into the ground will do wonders from keeping her get overconfident. Minato thinks to himself while making a quick calculation. It seems this perk will max out at 800. Maybe if you hit the max skill level you'll get a variation or an upgrade of it? The Hokage thinks out loud, his daughter dutifully nodding along. Having a smart and kick-ass dad who knows how games work can only help her in the long run if included into her training and experimenting with her. "Daddy, can this gaming ability be called a Kekkei Genkai?" Naru asks curiously, causing Minato to stiffen. Nope, not at all, he says frantically. Like hell he'll let it be known as a Kekkei Genkai. Those shitty assholes on the civilian council and Danzo will try and turn her little girl into a breeding mare just to see if it reproduces. As if he'll let them, any unapproved guide touching his little girl will be given to Anko, and yes, they'll pay most dearly indeed for trying to get to his precious. Meanwhile, out of Minato's mind and back into the real world, Naru can't help but look on confused as her father is chuckling rather menacingly while a dark aura surrounds him. Ka-chan, should we do something? The little blonde asks her second parental figure, seeing as the first one is a bit occupied. Kagaya just shakes her head as she is wearing a rather vicious smile, not that her little sunshine can see it. Besides, she has an idea as to what the man is thinking and wholeheartedly approves. Not at all, Naru-chan, just let him work it out of his system and check your messages. You did fulfill all of the requirements to get the entire reward of the quest. The Divine Mother says in a serene tone, distracting the youngling rather successfully. As most children her age and gamers of all walks and time, Naru quickly pulls up the window with the quest rewards to eagerly find out what kind of shinies she earned. Quest. Battle the Sublime Green Beast of Konoha. Objective. Last 300 seconds, complete. Optional. Land a hit, complete, optional. Last 480 seconds, complete. Optional. Last 600 seconds, complete, rewards on quest completion. Plus 30 taijutsu skill Shadowed Leather Vambrace's Fleeting Greaves. Teleport Crystal, quest item, full completion bonus, 500 Express. Awesome, got some new gear. Our little red-eyed protagonist can't help but think out loud, pulling her father away of the idea that castrating all boys around Naru and Mito's age group would make for a wonderful law. Blissfully unaware of the rather controversial, batshit crazy, thoughts going through her overprotective father's head, little Naru opens her inventory and toggles the description of her new items while Minato can't help but groan silently at the cluttered mess that is his daughter's inventory. It seems she has everything in it ranging from kunai to food to even 3 spare sets of clothes all mixed through each other. Obviously she ignored or didn't even notice the rather handy sorting button on top of it. Managing to rein in his temptation to just press the button, Minato quickly eyeballs the stats of the armor and nods. The quest rewards seemingly not too bad. Shadowed Leather Vambraces, 5 armor, 2 AGI Fleeting Leather Greaves, 4 armor, max speed plus 5%. Of course Naru wastes no time in equipping the items, the black leather vambraces snugly covering most of her forearm and wrists while her shins are now covered with an extra layer made of leather. Wow, these are actually pretty comfy, the junior blonde observes while flexing her arms and legs with a grin. Her father just chuckles as she starts shadowboxing, but alas those last vile forces of bureaucracy are taunting him into engaging battle once more. Yet he shall prevail as he did so many times before, or he will not be known as the Yondaime Hokage. Dad, stop pulling that face and finish the paperwork. The Anti-Paperwork Association sponsored break line. Sure, I got it from another series, but it's an awesome move. Now Naru can be considered one of the most blunt and honest 8-year-olds in Konoha and learned very early in life thanks to her godfather and Ka-chan that outright lying to Higley trained ninja is a pretty stupid idea. Purposely making your statements rather vague or simply not mentioning things until the time is right. Jiraiya the Gama Sennin will admit without any shame that he let roll a single manly tear down his cheek that consisted of 100% pure, concentrated pride when Naru took to it like a fish to water. Sure, the then 6-year little blonde had to think pretty hard when she tried it the first few times while she pretty much parroted the rabbit goddess, but pretty soon she got the hang of it. And boy did a lot of people curse however taught Naru that advanced bullshitting technique. And once again those skills are more or less put to use as Naru is absent-mindedly turning the teleport crystal in her hand. The construct catching the rays of the rising sun and acting as a kaleidoscope. While it makes for quite the beautiful display, it isn't exactly what our blonde protagonist is focused on. Quest. The Crystal Trail Travel Guide Objective. Go to the training grounds with the Hokage. Objective. Find the travel matrix and use it. So, this game wanted her to take her daddy to a random spot in the training ground where something was already prepared for them to travel. Yeah, just because she's young doesn't mean she's stupid. It's obvious that while the game so far had been helpful, it can also possibly work against her. The ceiling matrix and teleport crystal are clearly ways for Naru to move around in between places, but since she doesn't know where to, it can also leave her stranded somewhere bad. And if she follow the quest, then her daddy might possibly get hurt as well. If only there was someone super strong who could come along. Wow, so Minato didn't find Sensei's old stash of stress relievers. Do I owe him one hell of an apology? A rather familiar voice spoke up from behind Naru. Turning around quickly, the blonde ball of energy launched herself into her godfather's arms. Jiraiya Gigi, welcome back from the super secret spy stuff. She shouts happily while the aforementioned ninja just chuckles while trying to hide his shock at the much harder impact than usual. Wow, you must have been training a lot, little tadpole. He says happily, accepting a cup of tea with his free hand from his old apprentice. Oh sage, I'd stop my research for like 5 days just for a bit of Naru's tea. The man couldn't help but think as his goddaughter is now hanging on his shoulder like a spider monkey. What, you thought the super pervert, beacon and prophet of all things above PG-13 would forever swear off his noble quest of spreading perverse joy to the masses for some, admittedly divine, tea? Ha! I laugh and spit on your delusions, good sir. Sensei, when did you get back? Minato asks with a smile, rolling his eyes good-naturedly at his daughter's favorite purge. About 10 minutes ago, I would have come sooner but I got stuck wrapping up some loose ends. Jiraiya responds in his usual goofy tone, though his student understands the grim undertone of the message. Still, both men pay the confused blonde girl no mind as they read the latest quest objectives. Both are experienced and justified paranoid men and waste no time in dissecting the message. It should also come to no surprise that they reach the same conclusion. 2 or 3 anbu? Jiraiya proposes rather casually. 2 anbu and you as well. Minato nods in confirmation while flaring his chakra to summon 2 of his more trusted elite guard. Within seconds 2 black-haired men are kneeling in front of the Hokage, both wearing the standard uniform of their branch. The only difference is that the man with the weasel mask has a ponytail and the man with the hawk mask has short and spiky hair. You summoned as Hokage-sama? Weasel asked from his submissive position. Just as Minato was going to explain the situation, his daughter who slept more than 18 hours decided to do it for him in her usual way. Hi there Weasel and Birdie, we're going to the training fields to inspect some weird teleport thingy that can only be activated by a crystal that's soulbound to me. Wanna come with us? It'll be an adventure into a quite possible trap. Hawk thinks he summarized both his and Weasel's reaction pretty well. Say what now? The awesome line break for the utterly retarded blonde chakra monsters. It'll be oh so fucking majestic if I can properly put it on paper. Right, that's a wrap. First of all, I'd like to apologize for the lateness of this chapter and that it's slightly shorter than what my minimum requirements for a chapter are. No, I won't bore you with the busy dramatic clusterfuck that is my life, but I do hope the worst of it is over for now. And now for something story related. As you can judge from the title, this is the start of a new arc in the story. I decided that instead of putting the stats at the end of every chapter, I will instead of every new arc so that my story won't become 50% stats and perks. That being said, stats are below. Please don't forget to follow and review, and I'm always open for constructive input of possible ideas, stuff I can possibly integrate. Though I have already decided on Naru's main weapon, so that can't be negotiated about. Uzumaki Naruko stats Uzumaki, Yasha, Naruko LV 6 21st. HP equals 620 ch equals 3750 exp 350 575th strength equals 13 perception equals 21. Endurance equals 59 charisma equals 3 intelligence equals 26 agility equals 56. Luck equals 5 available stat points. 8 perks bonus. Dark Girl, 1 of 3, equals stealth and trap making skill increase x 1.5. Disciple of the Rabbit Goddess equals sealless primary and secondary elemental manipulation possible. Flexible body equals Agi x 2.5, STR x 0.6 Uzumaki chakra equals CH x 5, Mastery LVC rank Jutsu x 3. Uzumaki luck equals LCK x 4 during gambling or looting. Uzumaki vitality equals End x 2, health region x 1.3. Minor precognition, 2 of 5, equals +5 per Tensegan equals unlocked Dujutsu. Physical skills. Stealth, 0 1,000ths Taijutsu, 58 1,000ths. Trap making, 0 1,000ths chakra skills. Chakra blast, locked, requirements not met, rank, D, S. Chakra control, 53 1,000ths, current rank, D, other skills. Precognition, 205 1,000ths, current rank, minor, cooking, 62 1,000ths. Singing, 32 1,000ths. The sounds and sights of Konoha in the morning are always something to behold. The rising sun peeking over the trees and buildings as its golden rays are cast over the earth, the sound of nature only broken every now and then by a distant youth that seems to have picked up an echo today, and early risers going about their day. Just another day in the strongest ninja village of the elemental nations. Or it would have been if not for the sight of the Hokage, his teacher and 2 anbu watching a bunshin poke a red ceiling array with a stick. Even more peculiar was the little girl pouting to the side. So, why can the clone poke the thingy with a stick and I can't? She asks with a neutral voice. And not whining at all. She's way too kick-ass for that. Hawk just rolls his eyes and ruffles the girl's hair while motioning for his clone to poke harder. Because short stuff, if you poke the seal with a stick and something goes wrong you get hurt. If the clone pokes the seal with the stick and something goes wrong it'll only go poof. He explains, chuckling as the little tyke growls at him. Call me short again, I dare you. Naru threatens the anbu, her glare all but ignored as Hawk leans forward until his face is only a few inches away from the Hokage's daughter. Taking a deep breath, Hawk did something that he will admit a few years from now. Shit piss drunk mind you. That he shouldn't have done that. Teeny tiny wimey girly, small as fuck little midget that can easily fit in my pocket. He sings out playfully as he drums his fingers to the beat of his oh so clever little rhyme. So busy enjoying himself, the raven-haired man doesn't pay any notice to the trembling little blonde he's teasing, her eyes now shadowed by her bangs. Them's fighting words. She growls out as she now glares at the man with her Tensegan activated. And even with the size of the Hokage and his partner and the frantic gestures Jiraiya made in order to tell him to back the fuck up and run like hell, the man still doesn't let up. After all, what's an 8-year-old girl with almost no formal training and an unknown dujutsu gonna do to him? Wait, unknown dujutsu? Opening his eyes again, Hawk gauges the little girl seriously for the first time, noting how she's closely resembling an angry mini Tsunade. Just with a more imposing eye color and mutation mind you. Now, Naru may look just as angry as she is, but her mind is oddly tranquil and focusing on something that her Nei-chan taught her after she got angry the first few days with how often she got kicked around. If you have the time and energy to get angry at something, use that rage and resources to either improve yourself or to make the fucker pay. And that is what Naru's mind did, coming up with a simple yet devastating plan. She pulled her fist back and focused a Shinra Tensei in her fist so that all the force would be released into a concentrated point instead of it being spread over a larger area. And there was only one satisfactory way that the energy would have been released. So it was with an evil smirk that Naru released a point-blank, concentrated Shinra Tensei by punching the guy who mocked her. Right in the crotch. Time slowed down as Hawk's eyes bulged out of their sockets, his jaw dropping both in shock and agony as he's propelled backwards, his body folding neatly in two like a rag doll. The small sonic boom encompassing the event seemingly as the cue for time to resume its natural course. The short-haired anbu launched backwards into a tree. Said tree trembled underneath the impact, spiderweb cracks crawling from where the man landed, but it still managed to stand strong with the will of fire. The idiot that was punched into said tree, not so much. It's pretty safe to say he was turned into a quivering mess. Itachi, he croaks out somehow with a voice that is a few octaves too high, she punched me in the, man. He informs his colleague of the obvious in quite a pitiful way. She punched me in the so hard my Sharingan activated. Itachi, whose code name is Weasel for those of you who didn't realize it, merely winced in sympathy. The memory now burned forever in his mind. He activated it first to see what kind of technique Naru would use as he didn't recognize it, or the way she gathered chakra in her fist. If only he knew what the cost of his curiosity would have been, the fate of his comrade in arms might not have been seared into his mind for eternity. Oh, who was he kidding? Itachi was totally going to turn this incident into a lesson for little Sasuke about never underestimating his enemies. That and to never piss of a woman to the point of righteous fury. Still, he should answer his partner, shouldn't he? I know Shisui, I saw it happen. You did earn it though. The revealed Anbu says with a sigh as rubs his forehead through his mask somehow, the fingers grazing the porcelain soothing his oncoming headache without actually touching his skin. It was going to be one of those days, wasn't it? Ignoring the sad, to Itachi? Coming from his idiot cousin. Itachi turns to look again at the Hokage and Sannin that turned their attention to the ceiling matrix while his little blonde charge is staring intently at a screen before giggling madly. Congratulations, you just beat an Anbu level shinobi before graduating to Genin. If there were spies or ninjas of other nations around to see it, you would have been in the bingo book already and become one of the youngest ever to grace its pages. As it stands, you have to make do with what we give you for doing this supposed to be impossible feat. Rewards. Unlocked title. Male Bane unlocked achievement. 1 punch. Defeat an opponent 30 levels or higher above you with a single hit. Unlocked perk. These fists were made for hitting. 2 of 3 equals unarmed damage plus 10%. Plus 50 taijutsu skill plus 50 luck. Seriously, that was like a 1 in a million chance it would work out the way it did. Plus 1000 express Houri of the Fallen Avian. Legendary, fair warning. Rewards like this don't come along often, you have to pull some leg and wait for it dairy stuff if you want loot of this size again so early on. So go out and be crazy. Chakra technique creation. Shinra punch reward. Plus 20 int. Fingers gliding over various screens, the latest edition of Naru's armor set materializes in a burst of light, the surprisingly thick fabric weighing a bit heavy on the little blonde's shoulders. Still, she can't help but beam proudly at the simple black Houri that reaches her ankles, the code proof of her epicness and strength. Yes, if this isn't a sign of what an amazing kunoichi she'll become in the future, then she doesn't know what will be. That, and she had to admit that the code has some pretty sweet stats. Houri of the Fallen Avian, legendary, 95 armor, 12 STR, 8 AGI. Snapping her fingers twice, a mirror replaces the screens in front of her as she poses in front of it, her latest piece of gear thankfully managing to complete the outfit instead of clashing with it and making her look silly. Though there's an awful lot of red and black in the gear that she gets. Ah, who cares, if she can pull the look off then she shouldn't worry about it. Bored now? Naru announced to the world before skipping to where Daddy was working, that ceiling array looks pretty interesting after all. Leaving behind the carnage that she wrought by merely reacting, Itachi can't help but ponder an old but rather apt saying that's been flying around the elemental nations ever since this village was founded. The crazier a Konoha nin be, the more power they carry. Line break for those fallen in the line of duty. Rip Shisui, you will be dearly missed. And he mocked oh so much. She was wrong, it was so boring there, all Daddy and Jiraiya Gigi did was staring at the squiggly lines while muttering all sorts of weird words and things to each other she didn't understand. Taking the pretty crystal again out of her pocket, she hangs it around her neck with the thin silver chain that somehow got attached to it. Playing with the thing in her at her daddy and finally catches a snippet of conversation she can follow. So we know that it will teleport the user in between two of the same places, but the part needed to activate the array seems to be missing a key. Jiraiya comments in one of his rare serious mood. To his side his most successful, and still alive, apprentice shrugs his shoulder. He was more familiar with gaming mechanics after all, and this looked a lot like a fast travel point. Well, it's probably the crystal that Naru got. Though how it will get activated I don't know, it's not as if she has to merely say, teleport, while holding on to it. He says with a chuckle. Jiraiya can't help but chuckle as well as master and apprentice look at each other, the little bit of humor needed to alleviate tensions. Teleport. Not turning towards the flash of light. Both of their faces are frozen in the middle of their laughter, though now their cheeks are visibly strained in order to keep them frozen that way. Kushina's gonna kill us, isn't she? Probably. All I know is that I'll be sleeping in my office the coming weeks if she finds out. Turning towards two of his most loyal anbu with a glare that made many a Iwa nin shit their pants, he uttered a single sentence that would haunt their dreams for the coming weeks. Don't tell my wife what happened, Hokage's orders. Line break sponsored by the Teleporting Safety Committee. Because you will damn well follow their rules if you want to arrive with all your limbs intact. In a rather tranquil meadow, all seemed right as a breeze teasingly played with the grass that swayed along with its tune. Sadly enough, the piece wasn't meant to last. A bright light flashed into the air for a few seconds, just long enough to spit out a waif of a girl that fell right on her face. The little girl didn't move an inch after her rather sudden landing. Surely she wasn't dead. I mean, what would I do with this story if its protagonist already died? Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Little Naru groans pitifully as she doesn't bother to move from her position. The earth felt nice and cool anyways. Of course you shouldn't have, Naru-chan. What if you were dropped somewhere dangerous and there was no one around to save? Kagaya scolds her impulsive child. truly grateful that they weren't dropped somewhere lethal. Sorry Ka-chan, I was just really excited and wanted to help. Naru mumbles out dejected. Ka-chan's right, even though it still hurts the little blonde that her Ka-chan is upset with her. Sighing carefully so that there won't be getting any dirt in her mouth, the little blonde relaxes as she feels a warmth around her like she's being hugged. It's alright Naru-chan, just be more careful in the future. Both me and your father would be very upset if something were to happen to you. Now how about we get up and see where we landed him? Nodding excitedly, Naru immediately bounces up and lands on her feet, peering around curiously. It was an unassuming generic meadow she landed in, the only special sight being another ceiling array just like the one at the training grounds just a few feet away from her. Only this one was black and not glowy red. That probably means it ain't working right now, her childish mind concludes before walking to the only opening in the tree line around her. A simple dirt path was there, one that probably leads to somewhere. Stopping at the start of the path, Naru quickly equips her kunai, that seemed to all be resting comfortably in a pouch strapped around her right thigh. Taking one out in a reverse grip, our little heroine finally nods to herself as she starts walking down the trail, curious as to where she'll end up. Thud thud went the kunai as they sailed into the target dummies, the deadly gardening tools ending up where so many of their brethren were launched into before dematerializing in a shower of sparkly bits. With the accompanying sounds of course. The little girl who threw those kunai merely looked rather bored at a rather large jar, waiting for a few seconds until new kunai appeared with a burst of light. Letting out a rather unladylike groan as she grabbed the kunai and took a deep breath, shifting into a proper stance before throwing them again. Thud thud taking a step back, Naru couldn't help but look up and stare at the sky, the sun hanging in it still not having changed position. Still, if her Ka-chan is correct, and she almost always is, then she's in something called a pocket dimension or something where 1 hour is equal to a minute. It's a dimension Naru-chan, and time moves faster in here. So 1 hour spent here equals 1 minute back in Konoha. Right, that's how you said it. Glaring at the skill screen besides her, Naru started muttering rather angrily to herself. Ooh yes, let's just use the magic refilling jar to grind my throwing skills since I didn't have any practice yet. It's not like I'm wasting hours just throwing pointy things at boring targets. Throwing. 96 1000s. Naru merely glared at the screen before throwing the kunai over her shoulder without watching, managing to hit a bird and killing it instantly. Throwing. Processing. Throwing. 96,001 1000s luck +1. Ah, are you kidding me? I can't take this anymore. We have to get in there and save Naru. Minato shouts to Jiraiya, who is sitting there rather calmly all things considered. Still, since Itachi went up and set up several barriers to ensure privacy and that spies wouldn't be able to do their spying thingies and the other uchiha out of the count for the moment, it seems that it falls upon the gallant toad sage to calm down his currently hyperventilating apprentice. God help us all. Come on Minato, I'm sure she'll be fine, it's only been 5 minutes. Besides, she's a crafty little bugger. It'll be okay, you'll see. Jiraiya says with his usual smile, not being too worried. Sure, she may at the most rank as a genin skill-wise. And that's being generous. But no mere genin could drop an anbu with 1 hit. Sure, it was a sneaky, backstabbing hit in one of the most critical and sensitive spots of the male body, but who cares, shinobi are supposed to be sneaky like that. Seeing as his apprentice is now properly taking everything into account to calculate the odds of Naru being okay. You're right, she'll be fine. I mean, how much trouble can she cause in about 6 minutes? Minato says with a forced laugh before his eyes land Shisui again. His calculations actually left out one very important variable. Naru was an uzumaki, and the entire elemental nations is still filled with all kinds of tales about how they were the catalyst for all kinds of situations that range from, dude, what happened last night, to, why is there an eldritch being turning the ocean into ramen? We got to get her out of there. Who knows when the fabric of reality gets torn into pieces by her. Jiraiya screams frantically at Minato while dragging him back towards the teleportation seal. She might be gone for only 7 minutes, but an Uzumaki only needs 1 to bring about the apocalypse. Meanwhile back in the pocket dimension, after finally reaching 100 in her throwing skills, our little blonde decided to do something productive. She completely wrecked the area with a few Shinra Tensei before plopping down in the nice, cool shade of a tree and grabbing a lunchbox from her inventory. To be fair, she has been training for 7 hours straight, which is quite impressive. So, relaxing and eating during her well-earned break, Naru pulled up the area map in order to see where she needs to go next. Though that is more or less redundant, seeing as there only is one path to follow and a weird glowy barrier suddenly jumps up to stop her as she goes deeper than 10 feet into the woods. Oh well, no choice but to follow the path. She thinks to herself as the now empty bento box disappears in a shower of lights. Getting up and stretching her arms above her head for a tad longer than is socially acceptable. Grinning as she wades into the foliage, she immediately crouches and tries to get as stealthily as possible to the next point, using her new throwing skills to take out the few mobs that spawn before they notice her. Though fun as it is at the start, Naru can't help but get more and more excited as she nears the next clearing that's filled with weapon racks, scanning the area quicker than Anko would have approved with her eyes for traps. Our crazy little blonde wastes no time in merrily skipping to the weapon collection, praying to God that there is some awesome loot here as well. Sighing at the antics of her daughter, Kaguya can't help but look fondly as her little girl starts swinging around a wooden mace, trying to get a good feel for the weapon. Though judging by the way it slips out of her hands and falls on the floor. "Nope," is all that comes out of the red-eyed girl's mouth before she dismisses the heavy piece of wood and heads over to the next weapon. An axe about as large as herself this time, which she honestly doesn't fare any better with. And on it went, the little protagonist working her way throughout all weapon classes that there were. Axes, bows, staves, polearms, maces and clubs. Hell, even the katana didn't feel right in her hands and she tried every kind of blade that there was. Sure, she could swing them around and thrust them, but they somehow felt lacking, as if her mind and body tried to tell her this wasn't the blade they wished to entrust their life and very being to. The only thing worth keeping were a nice pair of knives, but those honestly would be delegated to backup and stealth weapons. The blades were actually forged straight with sturdy leather acting as the grip, the form more reminiscent of the trench knives that bearded smoky dude uses. Wasn't he Sarujiji's son or something like that? We're getting off topic. Point is, the weapons that Naru feels most comfortable with are apparently those that aren't of the elemental nations. So, why can't she just leave yet? Did she miss something important here? On your right side, Naru-chan, there's still a weapons rack you haven't checked out yet. Turning to the side, her Ka-chan told her to check out, and she didn't turn left first, not at all. Naru sees the wooden construct that's obviously in not so good shape. Compared to the sturdy, well taken care of look of the others, this one looks as if it can barely hold up the weapons and could collapse on itself at any second now. Still, there seemed to be an odd sort of pull emanating from it, as if something was calling out to the young girl. It honestly reminded her of that weird feeling in the ground, beckoning her to follow it and to listen. Far too certain of herself and the source of the feeling, Naru lets herself drift along with the pull while ignoring all of the strange-looking swords, shields and other weapons. Hang on, is that a sword as big as her Tu-chan? Wow, and there's a hammer with a head as big as Choji's torso, and over there is. Pulled out of her fawning over the exotic weapons that definitely aren't native to the elemental nations, Naru looks down to what she's holding. The hilt itself was wrapped in a simple dark leather and felt comfortable to hold, a strange ring connecting flowing out of the round guard and connecting the pommel with it. The blade itself was about 1.5 inches thick and seems to grow thinner and thinner as it neared the point of the blade, its tip ending in a V-shape. Time seemed to stop for a moment, a pale and see-through hand overlapping with Naru's for just the slightest moment. Following the spectral hand and its attached arm upwards, the little blonde stares rather stupefied right into a familiar set of red eyes, framed by pale white bangs. The crown of Naru's head before it disappears and time resumes its course. Message delivered. Confusing Naru's still incredulous face with her not understanding what the weapon is. Instead of, "What the fuck just happened?" Kaguya opens her mouth to explain what exactly her daughter is holding, only to change the words at the last moment. Dodge, now. Jumping to the right without asking why. Little Naru's faith in her mother is rewarded as she can feel the wind brushing past her face. The breeze was created by a large boar that seems to be as big as Naru, its head easily reaching the blonde's chest, its red eyes focused on the tiny little shit that killed so many of his brothers and sisters from the shadows. Well, he will make sure that no other boars will fall to this menace, or his name is not Tusk the Rampaging Boar. Kaguya grits her teeth as both she and Naru can see some sort of energy dome forming around the clearing, cutting off their escape. The mind that conquered the elemental nations quickly raced through variables and possibilities in order to come up with a way that will make sure her little girl will not perish here, quickly forming the basic framework of a plan. For now it's best that she sticks to those knives and fights a war of attrition with the beast. The sword might do much more damage, but we don't have time to teach her how to properly use it. The boar charges once again at Naru, who seems to stand there calmly. Right foot first, the girl's feet were shoulder-length apart and the tip of her blade pointed straight at the incoming enemy. Grinning as Tusk decides to jump the last of the distance instead of running, Naru twists out of the way as she slashes with her sword, a long and thin gash appearing on her opponent's flank. Letting out an annoyed, skiing sound as the wound was just a scratch, Naru looks at the blade in her hand again. Right, rounded tips are for slashing, V-shaped for thrusting, she says to herself before looking at the boar again with a smirk. But damn, you really are slow. I do hope you're faster than that, because Magoo at his slowest is way faster. The blonde taunts her opponent. Judging by the way the boar starts breathing heavier and is actually starting to froth at the mouth, it seems to working though. Tusk can't believe the arrogance of this little shit. She's barely a child and yet she acts as if she owns the world. It's people like her that always find a new way to ruin the world for those it deems as lesser than itself. Charging at the darkly garbed human, Tusk lowers his head in order to ram the little demoness head on. May his tusks pierce that wretched little heart. Naru just grins as her right hand is already brimming with anticipation. Chakra stored and ready as the flowers in her eyes bloom. Now all she need to do is wait for the right moment to strike. Giving Tusk the chance to squeal in defiance one final time, Naru utters 2 words that will spell her opponent's doom, her hand brought down as if squashing a bug. Shinra Tensai. The sudden wave of gravity forces Tusk to stop his charge, the poor thing rolling a few times as he can feel the force pushing him almost painfully so into the ground where he can't move. His legs broken underneath the combined stress of his charge and the invisible wall of power slammed into him. The squashed boar's last sight of this world is the blonde that killed his kin, ramming its sword right into his eye and brain. And like that, Naru won her first boss fight like a boss. Looking at the screen that popped up after the fight, Kagaya can't help but smile at the actions of her late granddaughter. Echoes of the past shape your skills for the future. Thrusting weapons plus 50 novice fencer. Your skill with thrusting weapons increase at 130% and damage with all thrusting weapons is multiplied by 1. 2. Aren't you grateful your previous life is such a nice woman to help you out with your training? Rank 1 of 5? Back with the panicking idiots in charge of this village. Sweetie, do you know where Naru is? The academy is starting in about 10 minutes. Kushina asks her husband with fake cheeriness, her killing intent making most people present rather uncomfortable. Having dropped off both Hiruzen and Mito already, the red-headed mother then went looking for her husband and eldest daughter. Sure, the two of them goof off every now and then together and she's happy that Minato and Naru get along, but he really should be setting a good example as both Hokage and father. Oh log, she's becoming the responsible one. Why the hell is she acting as the responsible parent? Meanwhile, Minato is already mentally scheduling an appointment with Shizune for his back as he gets ready to tell Kushina the truth. If he lies about it, she'll find out about it anyways and he'll end up sleeping on the crappy thing for 2 months instead of 1. Still, it has been over 40 minutes and Naru isn't back yet. Maybe he should. I'm right here, just did a quick wash up at the nearby creek. Naru says as she casually walks up to them, her face and neck still slightly damp. And right there, it was as if through divine intervention an age-old question most decent parents have was answered. Is it okay for me to pick a favorite amongst my children? If one of your children saves your ass like my little girl did, then yes, it should be acceptable. Minato thinks sagely to himself, the utter serenity on his face showing nothing of the overwhelming urge he has to hug his little princess while bawling in gratitude. Meanwhile, Kushina couldn't help but gape at what her daughter was wearing. And where did she get all those weapons? Morning mom, I already had the most awesome day ever. I managed to beat that anbu with a single punch in the and got this kick-ass Haori for doing it, Naru says excitedly as she points to Shisui, who is muttering depressed in a corner while drawing circles in the dirt. Staring rather speechlessly at the silly way one of her husband's guard is acting. Did that actually happen? She asks both Minato and Itachi, who both merely nod. At the confirmation that it actually happened, she can't hold herself anymore and starts laughing uproariously, tears flowing down her face as she gasps for breath. Oh, forget the fucking academy, if she can already pull things like that off, there isn't too much Naru can learn there. Taking her sweet time to get herself under control again, Kushina watches as the little blonde and Itachi are talking about the strange sword that Naru is carrying. The uchiha are openly interested in the accompanying fighting style. Still, they should be getting a move on. Naru, it's time for the academy. Get over here so I can shunsen you to it, Kushina yells. Yelling back a K, Naru waves goodbye at Itachi, hugs both Minato and Jiraiya before running towards her biological mother. Laying a hand on her daughter's shoulder, she can't help but laugh at her parting words for Shisui. Bye numbnuts, don't forget your codpiece when on duty next time. The sound of that angered scream was oh so satisfying to both Uzumaki. Kushina and Naru arrived at the academy in whirlwind of leaves, the elder redhead fully expecting her little girl to throw up. If Mito and Hiruzen are nauseous after being transported with that technique, there will be no way her untrained daughter could actually handle the holy shit that was awesome. Can we do that again? Better yet, can you teach me that move? And it seems the little blonde is alright after all, much to Kushina's surprise. Hell, she even seems more excited than before. Note to self, kill Anko for teaching Naru swear words, Kushina thinks to herself while corralling the now active little hellion into the academy. Ma, it's a pretty intensive technique, so maybe when you graduate. She says with that cheerful tone you try to use in order to mask your nervousness. Still, it seems to be the wrong thing to say as Naru's face suddenly grows neutral and she simply walks inside. If you don't want to have anything to do with me, then just come out and say it. Kushina's elder daughter scoffs at said mother as she walks silently into the academy, leaving a stunned Uzumaki matriarch standing in the middle of the grounds. Don't you think you were being a little harsh, Naru-chan? Kagaya chides her surrogate child softly, though there is no sternness in her voice, merely a sad acceptance. It's not the answer itself that hurts, rather the way it was said. It was the same tone that was used the last few times that Kushina used whenever she promised that she'd do something with Naru, only to leave the young girl waiting. Meh, we both knew that nothing would come out of it anyways, so why even bother? The young girl remarks in a resigned tone as she follows the quest marker on her minimap to her classroom. Taking in a deep breath once she finally stops in front of it, she reaches out to open the door, Naru-chan. Only to be stopped by the quavering voice of her mother. Turning to face Kushina, our little protag can't help but feel a bit of remorse at the almost desperate look that's on Kushina's face. Seeing that her daughter is at least willing to hear her out, Kushina takes the last few steps forwards and kneels so she can hug her estranged daughter. It was heartbreaking that Naru's first reaction was for her body to stiffen instead of returning it. Do we really spend so little time together she's even surprised at me touching her? Kushina can't help but ponder. Still, other things need to be said first, before the damage is done. Naru-chan, I know I may have screwed up lots of times before, but I do love you with all my heart. You're my precious daughter, and no matter how long it takes or what kind of ordeals I need to go through, I will find a way to make it up to you. And I promise you on my word as an uzumaki that we'll spend time together soon, okay? And to both mothers' relief, Naru finally returns the hug, albeit hesitantly. Still, it's a start. Both adult women present can't help but think. Still, there was one final thing to address. So, where did you get all that gear? You already look like a real kunoichi with it. Kushina asks with a grin, only now taking the time to properly appreciate the way her little girl pulled off her outfit. To her surprise, Naru grins as she starts listing. I got the greaves and braces because I managed to last about 15 minutes against Guy in a spar. The coat was for beating numbnuts, and I found the weapons in a field that had a really angry boar in it. I killed it though, so no problems on that end. The little blonde counts every item off with her fingers while Kushina can't help but grow more and more impressed with every achievement that her little girl already achieved. To the surprise of Naru, the redhead couldn't help but chuckle as she ruffled her eldest daughter's hair. Sounds like the academy will be a breeze for you then, won't it? She says with a proud smile before getting up again. Now then, you best get inside while I go talk to your daddy and Nei-chan to see if I can't wrestle a day or two in the week where I can train you. That seems to have been the right thing to say as Naru hugs Kushina out of her own volition while looking up with a smile. You promised, so you had to, she says cheerfully before opening the classroom door. See you later, Mom, she says with an adorable little wave before heading inside. Have fun, sweetie, and if you feel like trying to stab your classmates, at least make sure they absolutely deserve it first. Kushina yells her final piece of advice to her daughter before heading towards the Hokage tower. Maybe she could get Naru interested in fuinjutsu, seeing as neither Mito or Hiruzen seem eager to try it out at the moment. Is this a line break? Is this just fantasy? Have fun, sweetie, and if you feel like trying to stab your classmates, at least make sure they absolutely deserve it first. Is the first thing the entire class hears as a grinning little blonde walks in, already armed to the teeth and wearing armor. The way Naru dressed and the cheerful advice that was shouted at the grinning girl was enough to scare most of the civilian kids and even a few of the clan children. Though it incensed others to try and assert dominance as the alpha of the pack, as it were, even with the two teachers watching. Ha, do you really think that walking in all dressed up like that actually makes you tough stuff, Blondie? You better think again before you get hurt. Everyone knows girls can't fight after all. Inuzuka Kiba yells out with much grandeur as he jumps on top of the desks, ignoring Akamaru's yips about bloody blondes or something. Though the boy did nearly shit his pants when his cheek felt rather hot after something grazed it. Touching his cheek with his fingers, the coppery smell is finally made clear as he can see some blood on his fingers. Era, there must be quite the loud fly buzzing around in here. I do hope I hit it. Naru says with a sadistic grin as her eyes seem to peer straight into Kiba's soul. Ignoring Mizuki-sensei's murmur of, oh god, not another Anko. While she keeps staring down the rowdy Inuzuka clan heir, Hana-chan refused the position because she wants to be a veterinarian instead of being held responsible for all the idiot things her hot-headed clan can get into. Said heir looks at the wall behind him where the kunai is dripping some of his blood on a napkin Choji tossed over the napping Shikamaru's head. Looking back at the crazy blonde that threw an actual kunai at him, he couldn't help but yelp as the little terror is suddenly all in his face while crouching on his desk. Oh my, you seem to be bleeding. Ruka-sensei, shouldn't Kiba be going to nurse's office with a cut like that? Our happily violent blonde asks the second teacher in the room with what appears to be genuine worry. It's official, all of the civilian cannon fodder and most of the clan kids are now afraid of the sheer, seemingly bipolar insanity that is Uzumaki Naru. Caught between hyphens, no escape from reality. Also yes, we will be keeping up this trend the entire chapter thanks to Zebralord 23. After sending Kiba to the school nurse with Mizuki, Haruka takes advantage of the silence that seems to be looming over the classroom. Okay. Ignoring this slight interruption, today we will be blah blah blah. You probably read thousands of variations before. Let's look instead at some of the reactions of both characters already introduced and the new ones at Naru's dynamic entry. Let's see, background characters 1 through 12 are pretty much the same, your standard gasps and exclamations of fear. Yamanaka Ino is also leaning more towards that side alongside with wondering if her daddy would be willing to see what's wrong with her fellow blonde. Haruno Sakura is mentally screaming as well, although she is wondering as well if she'll get as skilled as Naru, minus the insanity of course. Let's see what other rather generic reactions from characters with barely any development we can quickly press into this summary. Nope, can't think of anyone else. Let's get to the fun ones. I'm just a line breeds just a line break, from a line family. Spared its life you monstrosity. Yes I know Sakura got proper character development but that's like way too late in canon emo. Let's start with the lazy genius, there's bound to be something interesting in those thoughts. So troublesome. Why did that crazy blonde have to challenge the Inuzuka in such an extreme way? He'll certainly be trying to beat her so he can become the alpha of the class. Oh well, it has nothing to do with me so I'll try and ignore it as long as possible. Women truly are troublesome. For those of you about to start a flame wars in the comments about me being misogynistic, I only have one thing to say. Anyways, on to the next one. And yes that implies you're beneath my notice bitches. Also that attitude be canon yo. Maybe I should throw a few more napkins on his head, or get rid of the kanai. Well, she was nice the few times we talked, but she's gotten more violent it seems. Oh well, I'll just leave it to Shika to figure out if we should hang out with her, he'll know. I'm starting to see why Itachi ni warned me about her. Maybe she'll be a proper challenge instead of being a useless fangirl. While seemingly insane, her actions do make sense. Why? Because the Inuzuka also like to display dominance through more physical challenges. If anything, she merely answered the call of challenge. While the above thoughts are easy to discern as to who they belong to, let's now see what her siblings think of her actions. Dad and mom should hear about this. If she already overreacts like this to simple taunting, who knows what she'll do when she actually gets angry or worse. Hiruzen can't help but think to himself, rather worried about his estranged sister that suddenly looks as if she's the heroine from a story. As for what Mito is thinking, well that's slightly different than what her brother is currently pondering on. Peeved. I can throw kunai way better than she just did. I do want a coat like that though, maybe I can get one too if I ask mom. Did I say a bit different? I meant very different. Still, there's one reaction we haven't seen yet. It's her, one adorable lavender-eyed girl thought to herself. Sure, normally she would have been worried and possibly quite scared of the almost casual violence Naru just inflicted on Kiba. But a little something that happened a few days ago did a lot to alleviate any kind of fear Hinata could have had of our probably psychotic and puny protag. Easy come, easy go. Will you let me go? Bismillah? No, we will not let you go, let him go. Ha ha ha. Look at her cry. Isn't she supposed to be an almighty Hyuga? A young boy taunted as he was flanked by two cronies. Sure, normally they'd have already gotten their asses kicked by any other ninja kid, but that's why they picked on Hinata. Her shy and demure nature made her a wonderful target and the fact that she's from one of the most prominent shinobi clans makes it all the better for the bullies. Normally, they go on a bit further until she ran away crying but today seems to have different plans for them. Oi, just what do you three less bastards think you're doing? A rather frosty voice asked the kids from behind them. Turning around, they saw a Naru who wasn't very amused at all with their antics. Walking back home from her training with Anko Ne-chan, the young heroine decided to take a shortcut through the park. Only to find three guys picking on an honestly adorable little girl in a rather large coat. Of course, she had to intervene. The three idiots of course had no idea what she had been up the past few days and only saw a blonde girl with creepy eyes. This has nothing to do with you freak, get out of here. The leader says cockily, thinking that he and his friends cut a threatening figure. Only to be rather confused by the little girl's snort. Now that's just fucking precious, you thinking you're a threat and all. What, she's still a rather impressionable 8-year-old and the closest thing she has to an adult role model is a sadistic tokubetsu junin that doesn't hold back on the swearing in front of said impressionable little kid. Of course she's gonna pick up some of her mannerisms and vocabulary. Still, the three little shits find her amusement at their expense rather insulting, so they decide to resolve this situation in true meathead style. Get her, the boss shouts before all three rush at the cocky blonde. Hinata wants to help the girl, but fear paralyzes her and she can only watch. Still, the event turned out to be something that would forever be engraved into the young heiress mind. Naru simply smirks as she dodges all attempts of the three idiots, seemingly dancing around the flailing strikes aimed at her in a rather bored fashion. To be fair, she is rather used to run from a giant snake while his summoner pelts her with kunai and senbon, so this is almost relaxing in comparison. Surprisingly enough, the mooks last about 2 minutes before the assault stops. The three boys are panting heavily while they look at Naru with anger. Said girl doesn't even look winded and giggles rather ominously as she cocks back her fist. My turn, she sings out before socking one of them straight in the face, the poor boy flying a few feet in the air before skidding on his back even further. An audible crack was heard and it seems the kid's nose was broken. This breaks the morale of the other two and they run away, screaming about a demon. That's right, run you little bitches. Naru shouts at them with a victorious grin before turning back at the still stunned Hinata. Smiling a lot friendlier at the frightened girl, Naru bounces over to her side. "You okay there? Need any help getting up?" the blonde asks in a soft voice, taking care not to startle the most adorable girl she's honestly ever seen. Hinata shakes her head but still doesn't reply or move. Naru simply chuckles as she looks the girl over. "Well, you don't look hurt, so that's good." "Oh yeah, I'm Uzumaki Naru. Who are you?" she asks with a sunny grin, washing away the other girl's worries without even trying. Hyuga Hinata. And nice to meet you." Hinata introduces herself with a polite bow, her eyes closed shut as she believes she's making a fool of herself. Imagine her surprise when she can feel two arms getting wrapped around as she's being pulled into a hug. "Oh my god, you're so adorable," Naru squeals out as she rubs her face against Hinata's. "That's it, I'ma escort you home and make sure those fucking idiots won't bother you again." Naru decides for the both of them as she drags the lavender-eyed girl towards the clan district, the Hyuga's heiress cheeks feeling and looking as if they were aflame. Still, the only thing brighter was the smile on her face as she pointed Naru into the right direction of her home. "Beelzebub has a line break put aside for me, for me, for me." It's a shame that the moment Hinata heard the gates of the compound shut behind her, she wasn't allowed to leave the premises until it was time for the academy. Still, what luck she has that she's in the same class as the one who saved her. "Were you awake?" The others already went ahead for taijutsu practice outside. A familiar voice called out to Hinata, snapping her out of her flashback. Turning to see the blonde girl dominating her thoughts the past few days, Hinata can't help but start blushing fiercely as Naru's face is only a few inches away from her. Though it seems to do the trick as bloody red eyes suddenly widen in recognition. "Ah, you're that girl from the park a few days ago. Those assholes didn't bother you again, did they?" Naru asks worriedly, checking the timid girl for any injuries. Relaxing once the blushing girl shakes her head, Naru leans back in the chair she seated herself in. "Anyways, Mizuki-sensei told me to take you outside once I snapped you out of whatever trance you were in, so let's go." Kiba demanded a proper match in the ring and I'ma kick his feral ass. The blonde says rather excited as she once again grabs Hinata's hand and drags her nation. And to be honest, Hinata can't help but enjoy the comforting warmth that seems to be holding hers. Mizuki just sighed as he leaned back against the wall of the academy, keeping an eye on the kids from behind them as Arukia explained to them just how the taijutsu sessions would work. Holding back a more audible sigh, the Nara kid looked way too sympathetic to him at the moment while subtly shuffling to the shade of the nearest tree. The young sensei looks to the side as he can hear the crystal-clear tapping of kitty feet on the floor from above and behind him. Turning around and taking a few steps back, he looks up curiously, enhancing his hearing with chakra, as he keeps his eyes on the open window of the second floor, where their classroom just happened to be situated. "Oh, you sure that we should do this? Hey, Zuki-sensei said that I should get you to the training ground out back as fast as possible. This is just a shortcut." "BB, but don't worry, I'll carry you and do the hard work. We can just catch you up on the correct form and techniques later." Wait, Naru saannn. The last word was screamed loud enough that Aruka and the kids got distracted as well, looking as to where the scream came from, with Aruka palming a kunai in case there was trouble. Still, it turned out to not be needed at all as in all her glory, a laughing Uzumaki Naru jumped out of the window while carrying a screaming Hyuga heiress in her arms. Sailing across the heads of her class and teacher, the blonde landed in the middle of the sparring circle, with the poor traumatized passenger still safely in her arms. Putting Hinata down, Naru quickly supports her newest friend as she wobbles onto her feet. Feeling the girl lean into her body, our red-eyed crazy girl looks around before waving at Mizuki with a too big smile. "Hi Yuzuki-sensei. I brought Nata-chan just like you asked," she chirped, looking a bit too proud at her overly dramatic entrance. Sighing once again, his quiet, troublesome, was accompanied by the weary nod of Shikamaru. Still, seeing as Aruka's brain is still rebooting, it's probably up to him to reproach the blonde mini Anko. "And you jumped through the window because," he asked the blonde little terror, who honest to God apparently didn't know what was wrong with jumping through windows. "Most of the ninja that go to daddy's office enter and leave through the window. We even put a little mat there where they can wipe off their sandals," Naru says as she cocks her head slightly to the side, looking like a confused puppy. Ninja didn't use the windows as their primary means to leave and enter rooms. Huh, that's actually quite the shocker. Thankfully Naru can't see what happens inside of her head, or she'd have seen Kagaya facepalm rather undignified. "Only the weirdos do that. Most civil people use the door when they need to enter or exit buildings," Mizuki explains with a sigh. "Being civil sounds boring then. Jumping through windows is pretty awesome and fun. Sage, give this teacher patience, for if he is given strength he'll probably get killed for choking the little blonde. Why can't he just find a way to why? Hello there, terrified little heiress." "Oh, I don't think Hinata-san enjoyed it that much," Mizuki says with a grin, pointing at the trembling girl still in Naru's arms. Red eyes widening in realization, Naru starts talking softly to Hinata, not wanting to startle the trembling girl anymore. Which honestly surprised Mizuki and the now recovered Iruka, especially with the way Naru was positioned. Her back was to everyone else while she blocked Hinata's view to them, ensuring that the lavender-eyed girl's attention was solely on her. Still, it seemed to work as Hinata slowly opened her eyes and relaxed. Like coaxing a little kitten out of hiding. Iruka couldn't help but compare Hinata's behavior to an adorable little feline. Still, something was bound to happen to shatter the almost adorable and hushed scene in front of the class. "Oi woman, are you coming into this ring so I can show you your proper place or what? Better yet, why don't you leave fighting to the boys and go make me a sandwich?" Kiba yells arrogantly, mimicking his recently disappeared father's attitude towards women. Still, the words did manage to get a rise out of both Naru and all of the other females in the class. The only thing everyone could see was Naru's shoulders tensing before she turned around, her face a neutral mask while her eyes held repressed, righteous fury. "Nata-chan, you gonna be okay?" the blonde asks her new friend. Before Hinata could reply, however, Ino decided that this was the best moment to stride up to her fellow blonde with all of the other girls trailing behind her. Raising an eyebrow at the sudden approach of all the fangirls plus Sakura and Mito, Naru can't help but wonder what they want. "Listen Naru, most of us here don't like you and think you're weird." Ino starts talking, pretty much saying out loud what everybody already knew. But the tone suddenly shifted as the Yamanaka heiress placed her hands on Naru's shoulders. "That being said, kick that whiny mutt's ass into next month and show him you don't mess with girls." Ino yells into Naru's face, whose second eyebrow now joined the first one up there in surprise as all the girls start to shout and cheer. Oh well, who is she but a simple red-eyed maiden that performs her role in this play that we call life. Walking to the ring where Kiba is waiting for her, and everyone is ignoring Iruka who is trying to get order to reign again. "You focus on the fight, I'll see that Hinata doesn't get another panic attack." Mito says softly as her sister passes her, the tone in which the message is conveyed something that neither of them can really place. "Thanks Mito," is all Naru says as she slows down just long enough to utter those words. Yet it seems more than enough as Mito dives headfirst into the horde of fellow female classmates, shouting and making some breathing room around Hinata. Striding into the circle of the floor, it seems that Iruka has given up on stopping the match. Better that they do it here under supervision than somewhere remote where it can all end disastrously. "Alright, both of you make the seal of confrontation." Iruka tries to keep things going right. Still it seems for not as both Kiba and Naru instead flip each other off. It seems all the newly minted teacher can do is sigh and begin the match. Kiba wastes no time and charges in headfirst at Naru, his hand already set in a claw so he can slash his opponent. All Naru does is smirk and let the hand come closer and closer until leaning to the side at the last possible moment and sticking her foot out. Of course, Kiba can't stop his momentum and trips over it, falling flat on his face before tumbling a few feet forwards. The young Inuzuka pushes himself up with a growl and turns to face the smirking blonde again. "Lucky shot," is all he says before running straight at Naru again, his arm cocked back in order to punch that smirk straight off of the cage kid's face. Which was quite honestly a rather big mistake. Naru sidesteps the punch and grabs Kiba's arm, using the boy's momentum against him as she throws the boy over his shoulder and kicks him straight in the face while he's airborne. Landing once again at the edge of the ring, Kiba pushes himself up with a growl while the girls are cheering louder with every hit he takes. Even that shy little Hyuga is looking in awe at that blonde little idiot. Getting up for the third time already in such a short span, Kiba once again opened his mouth and did something he really shouldn't have. "I was going to take it easy on you, but I changed my mind. I'm gonna beat you up and turn you into my bitch. And then I'll do the same to that girl you're dragging around." As expected of such a rather foul declaration, though it is still rather tame by Inuzuka standards, all of the girls begin shouting and booing while a few of the boys start laughing and jeering at the blonde they're starting to both hate and fear. Iruka is about to step in but Mizuki stops him, merely nodding his head towards Naru's direction. Said girl stood expression on her face, hair covering her eyes. Thinking of this as a sign of submission, Kiba presses on. "What, too scared to say something? Guess you finally learned your PLA." His breath is stuck in his throat as suddenly some kind of pressure seems to paralyze him, all of the children stunned into silence as well. Naru slowly lifted her head while gazing all the while at her opponent with that same mask-like visage, although there's one glaring difference now. Her eyes are blazing with fury and a promise of suffering as they bore into Kiba's, the young boy's leg shaking as he hyperventilates underneath the pressure of Naru's killing intent. Everyone looks on in a morbid sense of curiosity as the blonde finally starts moving, walking towards the Inuzuka heir in an almost lazy fashion with her head cocked slightly to the side. "Oh please do keep barking little doggy, it'll help me decide if I'm gonna use your blood to paint my fingernails with," she says in a casual tone, stopping right in front of the trembling boy. Waiting a few seconds in order to see if Kiba will reply, she merely sighs in resignation and looks almost disappointed. After all that smack-talking the haughty heir did, She was actually getting really hyped up for the fight. Oh well, nothing that can be done about it now. Taking in a deep breath, she cocks her head back and with a grunt smashes her forehead once again into Kiba's nose. The boy staggers back a few steps as his hands fly to his now bleeding nose, the pain being more than enough in order to get him moving again. Still, it's too late for him as Naru steps on his bent leg and uses it to launch herself in the air, kicking Kiba once again in the side of his head and sending him out of the ring. Everyone just stares dumbly at the scene before Iruka breaks the spell by announcing the quite obvious results. Winner: Uzumaki Naru. Though do try and keep the excessive violence to a minimum next time. He yells at the girl who is merely cleaning her ear with her pinky. Hey, if he insists on talking smack in order to piss people off, he better be ready to deal with the consequences, she says in a rather uncaring tone before walking out of the ring. Striding back towards Hinata, Naru's composure fades and guilt sets in as she sees the Hyuga heiress staring at her in disappointment and the slightest bits of fear. Was she really that scary? Did you have to go that far? Hinata asks her friend, hoping that the blonde wouldn't be letting out any killing intent again with that question. Though to the surprise of nearly everyone, Naru blushes and starts stammering, her eyes fixed on the tree in the courtyard and away from everyone. Oh come on, he called you a bitch, and you know, since we're friends and all I just couldn't let him get away with stuff like that you know? She nearly yells before she starts muttering about how stupid boys shouldn't question the awesomeness of both her and her friends. To the side, Mito approached the still prone form of Kiba and starts poking it with a stick. Getting no response, she grins as she pulls out a marker and starts doodling on the boy's face while everyone is still focused on her sister and the unfolding drama. At least until they heard two people cheering out of the window. Looking up at the second-floor window, everyone quickly backs up as a boy a year older than them jumps out of it and lands in a superhero pose. The girl with her hair in two buns merely sighing and turning away from the room again. Yash, I see that Guy Sensei did not lie about your flames of youth at all. It'd be my honor to proclaim you my eternal rival. The black-haired boy with very bushy eyebrows yells out before smiling a very familiar Colgate smile while giving the red-eyed blonde a thumbs up. It does take a few seconds until she finally realizes where she saw that kind of behavior before. Ah, so you're the apprentice of the bushy eyebrow dude in spandex? Nice to meet ya. Naru says with a grin as she eyes the boy who is honestly already starting to look like his teacher and even seems to act like him. So, how long's he been training you? Naru asks curiously. At this question the overly eager boy's smile even seems to shine strong enough that everyone wishes they had a pair of sunglasses like Shino does. He found right after your match with him and decided to make me, Rock Lee, his disciple. So since yesterday afternoon then? Naru asks with a sweat drop rolling down her head. Geez, just how easily did this kid get influenced by his teacher? Pot, meet kettle. It seems you have quite a bit in common. What was that supposed to mean? Never mind, Bushy Jr. seems to be wanting her attention for something. So, what say you? Will you be my eternal rival? He asks with a hopeful glimmer in his eyes. Wait, that means basically that we'll train as hard as we can in order to beat each other, right? Naru asks rather confused. That is correct. And we'll try to one-up each other in almost everything we can think of while pushing ourselves beyond our limits. Right once again. Hey, why not? Sounds like fun. Naru says with a shrug before squeaking in both pain and surprise as she is being held in an almost literally bone-crushing hug. Sensational. I will immediately ask Guy Sensei to double, no triple my training so that I might be a worthy challenge for you my rival. I shall get on to that right this instant. Lee screams before running right through the wooden wall surrounding the academy. A quite persistent, Yuud, trailing behind him. And honestly, can you blame everyone present just staring at the boy-shaped hole in the wall while wondering just how to react? Well, that was a thing. Ino comments offhandedly and that is enough to break the spell. Kiba is dragged to the office once again by Mizuki, who is considering to bring alcohol to school starting tomorrow. Iruka calls the next students into the sparring ring and Naru just seats herself in the shade of a tree with a sigh and closes her eyes for a bit. She does open them when she feels a hand gripping hers. Looking up, she sees a madly blushing Hinata looking into her lap while their fingers are intertwined. Thank you for a few days ago, and earlier as well. She stammers out softly. Still, Naru heard it just fine and gives the pale hand cradled in hers a gentle squeeze in order to reassure the heiress. Hearing someone sit beside her, Naru turns her head in order to see Aburame Shino who is muttering to a bug. Sue, how does that even work? Naru asks curiously. Shino looks at the young girl who blurted out that question. What exactly do you not understand Uzumaki-san? Shino asks politely, wondering when exactly the usual reaction to his keke genkai. Where the fuck do you keep all those bugs in your body? I know that you guys get a hive implanted and stuff, but where exactly do you keep the bugs and how the hell do you let them fly out of your arms and such? Also, do you like speak bug or is there some other crazy way you guys communicate with them? The eldest Uzumaki daughter fires question after question at the Aburame heir who can barely keep up. Still, if she is truly curious about his clan's abilities and techniques, then he'll oblige and answer them. Only the parts that aren't secret, of course.